think it is. Like basketball is, it's about teammates. It's I don't know. When I open, I score. When I pass, play basketball. Just play simple as I can. Something like.
Let's go.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into the DNBA live show presented by Illegal Pete's. Man, this gets more obnoxious every single time. But Illegal Pete's is going to ask us to stop doing this. They're going. Can we kindly request?
I'm not going to.
But Eric, are you turned off? Your audio has just gone away.
Yeah, my favorite part is that every night when that's happening, like the rest of Denver is howling in support of the medical workers, and we're at the same time just not participating.
Audio-wise, the worst 10 seconds of Eric's day. He absolutely hates it.
He was so psyched out by the air horn, he just had to go on mute.
Oh yeah. Who knew what I was going to say at that point?
I guess I can't even introduce you. I go. That's your intro. You're supposed to go. Let's go.
My video's bad. My audio. Maybe I'll just kill myself.
Joining us again after a brief hiatus, it's Harrison Wind.
We got 2 words, guys. I'm back.
Oh, I didn't get the facts.
Yeah, would have been better if you sent us the facts, I think.
We've also got Brendan Vogt down on the bottom right.
What's up, fellas? How we doing? I'm ready to redeem myself after getting owned by Eric on that Jimmy Butler, Michael Jordan take.
That was a good one. And then our special guest today, beat reporter for the Denver Post, our buddy Mike Singer. Mike, what's up?
What's up? Thanks for having me on, guys.
What's up, brother?
Very excited.
There you go.
So, guys, today we have some news to talk about. There's some things that have been kind of happening lately, I would say. It does feel like there's a little momentum building towards some news. I feel like we have news about the news. Like it's free news. There's like
vague. It's very vague.
Yeah, it's very vague. But I do feel like we're working towards I feel like a week or two from now we're gonna know what's gonna happen, what direction things are going, or what the goals are.
That seems optimistic.
It does seem well. I'm just saying in 2 weeks we'll know. They'll be like, yes, our target date is this, and this is our goal, and if we can't meet it, we're folding or whatever.
This is like we've gone to the twilight zone where the NBA has become just like a corporate office. We're having meetings about meetings. Like, we're like next week we're going to set a meeting to talk about what our goals are. Yeah, that's what.
Do you think in the LeBron conference call with those guys, he was saying, "Let's put a pin in that"?
Yeah.
We'll circle back to Chris's point later.
I'm saying if they have any idea what's going to happen in 2 weeks, then the amount of information that's out there right now, we know like 5% of what's happening. If they have a direction where they're going to go and like this, blueprint and groundwork is laid, we know nothing. We know crumbs at this point if Adam Silver is really getting ready to make a decision. So I would lean more toward the 4-week end of that, but you're dead on. Things are happening.
That's like an injury timetable for a sprained ankle, 2 to 4 weeks. It's always going to be 4 weeks.
We're in the hockey injury timetable.
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible.
I'm wondering what they're like hoping to find out next, though, or what data they're hoping to gather. I'm sure it's like how interested the players are in actually doing this, but I don't know what they're going to learn, in 2 to 4 weeks that we don't know now on the macro scale.
So, on Adam Silver's call, post Board of Governors meeting maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, he used the phrase data, not date. And so what they are absolutely looking at is the amount of confirmed cases that happen in the states that are reopening. And obviously they're looking at Nevada and looking at Florida as it pertains to the NBA. So, that's a small sample size, but like it's obviously not encouraging if they reopen up and then the cases shoot up. So, I think there's a little bit of science there, but whatever.
That mirrors the real world, doesn't it? That's kind of that's like the big question right now is, okay, people are starting to go back out. They're starting to get into life. We'll see if the numbers skyrocket. So it would make sense. When I said I think 2 weeks, I don't mean 2 weeks as in the NBA says, all right, here's our plan, we're going. I just mean like in the next 2 weeks, I think Adam Silver will have the knowledge of these are our checkpoints. If we don't have this by this date, then we're not going to do it. If we don't have this by this date, then we're going to do this or that. That's all I mean. I do think there's some plans, nothing solid, but it does seem like they're starting to know what the benchmarks are, and they could maybe start to talk about what those are.
I mean, isn't that encouraging that for the first time since March 11th, we have a date to hang our hat on? I mean, before it was Adam Silver didn't want to make a determination by April 1st. And then it was, which seems ridiculous in retrospect. And then it was May 1st and then June. So he's kind of kept pushing the goalposts. And now the goalposts are kind of set. I mean, it's a little muddy, but they're a little bit set.
It's wild to think back to that. We're not going to decide by April 1st. And I remember being like, oh, this sucks.
I know. Remember it was 30 days. It was 30 days at one point, right?
That's just it. Is that like everybody wants a date, but everything's meaningless. Like it's all meaningless until we have like some way to have people not get sick from this. I mean, it's like there needs to be a cure or vaccine. But we're just dancing around trying to keep people like engaged, like giving them, like you're saying, little crumbs, like keeping them and get like every day you can come in and hear us talk about what might happen.
I mean, isn't that the playbook? Isn't the playbook extend this as long as possible?
Of course,
that what I think he said, like, if I was able to talk to David Stern told me to extend this as far as possible. And so that's what's happening. And, we're left to speculate and, hear little crumbs about guys working out and facilities starting to open up. And I know I'm here for the crumbs.
We
need a t-shirt here for the crumbs.
Oh, I'm so here for I'm going to make that right now. I'll be right back.
Okay, sweet.
So do you know, Mike, how many players are in Denver right now and how many people are taking advantage of this open facility?
Yeah, so on Monday, 3 players were in the gym. Vlatko was one of them, and then I know that there were 2 very prominent players who were also in the gym. We'll just leave it at that. We'll call them prominent. And then, what do you say?
I said I love this detail. Prominent.
I mean, like there were 2 other starters that were there. I don't know if I'm at liberty to say who, but there were 2 other starters.
Everybody assumed it was Jokic. He's in town. He's in Denver. There's only a handful of them, I think. I mean, a lot of people I know have gone back to their own respective areas or whatever.
Well, there's also literally
not a bad assumption.
Yeah. There's also literally only a handful of starters. So
again, another process of production. You're killing it here. The other thing is, I think Michael Porter Jr. is back in town too. So, I don't know if he's using the gym. I would assume he has a gym at his disposal. The funny thing is, like, we're never going to know how many guys really were in the gym working out. But, I mean, let's say there's about 10% of the league actually has a court in their place. I bet you 80%, 85 to 90% have been in the gym to some capacity. We're not going to know about it, and we're just going to have to accept that. Like, someone told me today, Giannis has been very vocal that he hasn't touched a basketball. Are we really supposed to believe that? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's just on Giannis at some point. Like, come on, man. Do some ball handling.
Other guys are.
You're like, man, touch a basketball. Would you just touch a basketball?
Yeah, you don't even need to shoot it or dribble it. Just touch it.
Just touch it. Like, come on.
Elite comment here. Jerry Krause would be proud.
Oh my god. Wow. Elite.
Shout out Last Dance.
LeBron had like a court built on the moon, and he's just been there training for 2 months.
No, he's more than an athlete. He's also an astronaut.
Jam set. They rebuilt the Space Jam set to accommodate LeBron.
Yeah, this time actually starring space. That would be a much better film, I think.
Who, in your opinion, Mike, who do you think most sort of can benefit? Not that anybody can benefit, but can maybe turn something positive out of this moment, like being able to be in there. These are one-on-0 workouts, right? They're not allowed to work out together. Coaching staff, I understand, can be there observing, but there's like all these rules about how they can do it. But is there anybody you think that can benefit from these moments to either personally or get more minutes or whatever?
Are we talking Nuggets or NBA wide?
No, Nuggets.
Nuggets specifically. I mean, like, again, I think that a lot of the guys have had access. I mean, and they've been posting stuff on Instagram. Like, you've seen Jamal post stuff on Instagram. He's been in the gym to some capacity. Torrey Craig's been in the gym to some capacity. Monte is all over it. So the really interesting part to me is how many guys are in market that are actually reticent to use sort of the facilities, because they have access all the time to any gym, and at this point they're like, yeah, there's a lot of hoops that you got to jump through. I mean, I've seen the protocol. It is exhausting. Yeah. You have to walk in by yourself. You immediately have to get a temperature check. They have equipment that it has your name on it, and you're not allowed to use anybody else's. There has to be 12 feet apart. Then they have to disinfect everything as soon as you use it. And, one coach, one player, one basket. And basically the Nuggets have had such like lukewarm response to this that they haven't been open every week or every day this week. And I don't think they're going to be until guys start matriculating back into Denver and start using it. But again, a lot of guys have access to gyms. So I wish I could give you one, maybe Vlatko, just because he's been sitting there twiddling his thumbs playing video games. But
well, we also know Vlatko, when he came over and did Summer League 2 years ago, he looked one way. And then all of a sudden he just got jacked and was ripped as can be. And I remember thinking, like, being here and with the coaching staff must have been the best thing ever for him, because he really seemed to like embrace that part of it. And I wonder if the same is true now. If just what else can you do right now? You can get some shots up. You can do probably some skill work or whatever, but you definitely can work out. And I'm sure it's easy to have guys doing certain conditioning drills. So I wonder if he is a guy that like is turning his body into the best possible version of it.
I mean, is it an optimal version, or is that just his only option now? Is he just going to be jacked and then he has to figure out if that works?
He's going to come back with
too much muscle.
He's going to come back with his baseball body.
Yeah.
It's going to come back looking. I don't think that can happen.
Something I thought was really interesting, though, the Miami Heat opened their facility today, and I saw a tweet from Ramona Shelburne that said like 11 or 12 players from the Heat worked out at their practice facility today, the day it opened. So either they stayed in market. I mean, maybe Miami's probably just a better city to stay in if you don't have anything to do than Denver. But maybe they also came back from wherever they were because the facility was open. I just thought it was an interesting contrast because with Nuggets players there throughout the country, they have access to gyms. Why would I come back to Denver and jump through all those hoops if I can just keep working out like I have elsewhere? So I just thought it was an interesting contrast.
Maybe the Heat are all back because Jimmy Butler has threatened all of them if they don't.
Yeah, it's the Jimmy Butler whip.
Yeah, bring it back to Brandon.
You were in Chicago for the Jimmy Butler era, weren't you?
I was, yeah.
What I know this is like a total aside because we brought him up, but I'm just curious, like, what your thoughts were from covering him, and maybe there's some misconception because one of the things people say about him is he's a complete and total jerk.
There's no misconception. I'll never forget. He said to me, he was just like, I was asking him about it. I think he was in contention for most improved player of the year. And he was like, I'm just a kid from Tomball, Texas. And like, his head couldn't even fit inside the locker room stall. The fact that he was saying that, like, he was trying to like lower himself while elevate himself. And I was like, dude, like, come on now. And not to mention, I had covered Marquette basketball before that, where he came from, and he was sort of revered at Marquette as well. So I kind of had seen his trajectory, and, a lot to his credit. He worked himself up from a 30th pick to an invaluable player, a max guy for the Heat, and the guy who really sets the tone. But like the amount of egos in the Bulls locker room, I mean, like, it was enough to Fred Hoiberg, his head exploded. He couldn't handle Rose, Joakim Noah, Taj Gibson, and then they throw in D Wade and Rondo. Like, Hoiberg had no chance. It was hilarious.
In hindsight, you really did have no chance.
The ultimate college coach too, because he was the like hero, right? He's the mayor of Ames. Like he's worshipped to then going to a place where like 7 players on the team can tell you no to anything.
It was crazy.
Not the
there was like there was like an established identity like from the Tibbs era there. And Hoiberg had no chance. Imagine how difficult that is to go into a rookie locker room. I mean, John Beilein got run over by basically a rookie locker room with the Cavs this year. Yeah. And so you look at what Hoiberg had to deal with, it was damn near impossible what he was asked to do. And that was definitely a stain on Gar Forman. That was his handpicked guy. He was like, he's going to replace Tibbs. He's, got the vision. The funny thing is, I think Gar was actually Fred Hoiberg was renting Gar's house in Chicago. Like, it was already preordained.
Oh, this is a 2-point situation, huh?
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Is it more my issue or his issue that I can't not laugh every time I hear his first name, Gar? Gar.
Yeah.
How is that a name? Gar?
Yeah, like Gar it's like the guy from Dodgeball. Like Gar.
Yeah. Okay, I'm glad it's not just me. Phew. All right.
I like that we all have our little corners to insert into the conversation. And you know what name sounds funny?
It's just, you haven't realized the dynamic on the show that you have cultivated. You guys say things that are informed, and I say things that are dumb, and then you react to them, and then that's how that we move on.
It's a good yin yang.
Yeah. I agree. I couldn't agree more. In fact,
I got to pour one out for the mayor of Ames because Hoiberg was my pick for Denver Nuggets. So I, like Gar Forman, was all in on that. It probably would have been a complete total disaster.
This dude was so bland. He was milk toast milk toast with skim milk poured on it. It was so bad and like frustrating to be around. Like after dealing with the Tibbs era, who like barely said anything, but at least you knew that there was a lot of emotion there. I'm not sure Fred had that capacity. He was like a 4 to a 6 all the time.
Well, I like that. It kind of provides a nice segue because I think Michael Malone is far from that. He's extremely interesting. And so when we get back, we're going to talk about just your experience here in Denver. You're a transplant. You're new to Denver. You've only been here a couple of years. So a bunch of questions about your experience here. But first, Harrison Wind, take it away.
Something that's not bland at all is, guys, the food from the Breck Brew Farmhouse.
Nice. It's good to have you back. It's good to have you back.
Oh my God. Wow. I'm relieved and sold. I'm going to order a Breck Brew right now.
Yeah, if you guys are looking for dinner or lunch one of these days, hit up the Breck Brew Farmhouse. Whatever you want to eat. I mean, look at those. Did we decide those are meatballs or what?
I didn't make it. I say fritters. I still say fritters.
They could be fritters. What are fritters? I can guarantee you they're good. 303-803-1380. Open from 12 to 8 for pickup. You can also get delivered as well. Also, guys, now that it is the quarantine, we got some time on our hands. This is a great time to maybe go back to school, take some classes. Metro State Online has tons of class offerings.
Go Roadrunners.
Every single subject, business, communications, graphic design. You can come take D-Line's job maybe one day.
Bring it.
It's not that hard.
Yeah, but MSU Denver Online, you can browse their whole course catalog, 700 different courses they offer. You can go back to school. You can continue your education if you're looking to get a second degree or whatnot. If you've never gone to college, MSU Denver Online is a great option as well. So, be sure to check them out.
Shouts to Metro.
I never really appreciated Harrison's ad reads until yesterday. Till you put that shoe on the other foot.
I wasn't on the last night's show just so I could make you do the ad reads.
It was a bad situation. I think people may have dropped out of MSU Online during my ad read last night.
Sunshine yellow, Joseph. Sunshine yellow. Jump over this.
Yeah, sunshine yellow, bro. No, yeah, that's right.
All right. So, Mike, I want to kind of rewind now to 2 years ago when you arrived here on the scene. First of all, why Denver? What made you sort of take this job or pick this job? And then what did you know about the city and about the team when you were coming here?
Well, let's be honest. I did not have my pick of jobs, so this was that's
the life of the beat, though, right? I mean, it's a lot of.
Yeah, I had been with USA Today. I was living in Chicago. I had been with USA Today for 4 years, and I had spent the last 2 years as our national NBA editor. So, it was so cool to see behind stories. And I worked with Sam Amick and Jeff Zilgett. I worked hand in hand. I mean, Sam called me 7 times a day. Like, it was excessive. And so, like, it was so awesome to see behind the scenes and really get to network with them and talk to them. And stuff kind of hit the fan at USA Today for a number of reasons, for me and for others. And so I looked around. I was like, listen, am I going to be, behind the scenes for my career? Is that what I envision? Is that the goal? And what I really wanted to do was I wanted to push myself and try to do something that I hadn't. I mean, I had been around Bulls media. I'd been around Cavs media before, but I had never been, sort of one of the primary people trying to ask a lot of questions and really writing every day about it. I mean, I'd had various aggregator jobs, like we talked about in Chicago, and I wrote a lot with USA Today, for our website, but like I was never entirely dedicated to one team, and I kind of really did want to sink my teeth into one NBA team, especially after I had a little taste, like I said, in 2012, covering Marquette, where I was their beat writer and I got to travel a little bit. So, the job came open. I leaned on Sam and Jeff for job recommendations and references, and I was like, please call these guys, please. And, something gave, and Denver was definitely one of the places I would consider just up and moving to. And it was not an easy decision. I had just moved in with my now fiance at that point. And it just looked like too good an opportunity. And everyone who I canvassed was like, if it's available and they're offering you the job, you need to jump if you really want to try. And so, that was it. I can't say I knew the book on the Nuggets at that point, but I tried to read it.
So the Nuggets were just a team.
More of a pamphlet.
It was the job. It was, but the Nuggets part of it was just like, well, let's see.
I mean, certainly they were an interesting team. Like, sure. I had followed Jokic. I had seen Jamal Murray's ascension. Certainly they weren't a team that I was going to just know that I was going to be covering the lottery year in and year out. They weren't a Suns. They weren't a Grizzlies team. Like, it wasn't a complete no-name place. And why, are you a Suns or a Grizzlies fan?
No, screw those teams. Who wants to screw those
teams? That's like worse than us from a
yeah, I just like to hear that other people are like, yeah, when you start just listing off like crummy teams, we're out somehow now out of that tier.
We're above them. We're like the 10th worst.
Like, let's be clear. Like, it was obvious that the Nuggets window was opening, and I thought it was going to be very fun to be a part of that. What stat did we keep hearing that they were like one of the youngest teams ever in the playoffs last year? And it was fun to be around. 2 years ago when I came, I was like, all right, I'm going to develop. I'm going to grow. This team is going to develop and grow. Maybe Malone doesn't hate me to the point where we'll develop a rapport and a relationship. So, like, that was sort of the intrigue. I knew that it was kind of I knew that the team hadn't peaked yet. And that was another, selling point. The fact that I could, conceivably grow with this team. And so it kind of just was sort of a perfect marriage. And, since everybody seems to be a transplant here, I had some friends here already. And I just jumped, and I didn't really think too much about it. I was like, let's give it a shot.
What's been the biggest surprise about being here in Denver?
As it pertains to the Nuggets?
From the city, just being here in Denver.
I have to be honest. I was so jaded with Chicago's weather. Like, I was so pissed. There were winters where I was like mad. Like, if I can take a quick detour, in Chicago one winter, it was called like the polar vortex. It was so cold during the polar vortex, I kid you not, that the polar bear at the zoo went inside. And I was like, this isn't good for humans. Like, no. If it's not good for polar bears, it's not good for humans. And, that was another selling point, the 300 days of sunshine. And so, like I said, I had a lot of friends here. I'd been in Chicago for 6 years. I was just ready to try something new. And in terms of, here's one. In terms of surprise, I was expecting a more long-standing Nuggets ordeal, and I was a little surprised how I mean, obviously it's a transient city, but I was a little surprised how I don't know what the right word is. Like sometimes lukewarm, but if they're good, then it's a little bit warmer. They're simmering.
Yeah.
So I was curious to learn about that aspect.
Are you picking up on the dynamic that exists in Denver, Colorado, where we are a mid-level city as far as population is concerned, but we have all 4 major sports teams, and then we also have an MLS team. We just love sports, but the attention just sort of goes to whatever deserves it. You know?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a little bit fleeting, and I get it. You know, people go to the mountains. They move here to go to the mountains in the wintertime. But fortunately, one of the things that was appealing was I thought the Nuggets were on the ascent. And I really thought they were going to be a team that could really engender a lot of goodwill. And it seems, I mean, you know, given we've had 2 months of way too much time with nothing to do, we've all been digging into the history and sort of looking at the Nuggets. This has the potential to be one of their best stretches in their franchise history. And if that doesn't warrant excitement, then it's not that good of a sports town. This should warrant a ton of excitement given where they are.
I think I'm going to push back on this one thing. I think it is absolutely a fair weather fan city, but when the teams are good, the fans are good. I mean, we were rewatching the 2009 playoff, phenomenal atmosphere. I mean, even relative to other cities, it was a very, you know, I think they show out. It's just they only show out when they feel like.
Well, that's the thing. But that's the thing is that like we have really good sports fans, but they don't always connect themselves to one team unless it's the Broncos. But they've connected themselves to the Broncos because they're always good, right? So if the city feels like the team is worth their time, like they'll absolutely get into it, put their back into it, baby. But
there's a lack of like even in the rough years. I mean, there are franchises in places like Chicago and Cleveland that have built an identity around this, right? Like we're the lovable losers, or there's this curse, and like the Nuggets have been kind of always stuck in this limbo of like, you know what I mean? They don't get that national thing, but even locally, people don't. It's not cute to be a Nuggets fan, you know what I mean? Or
the difference, the difference between Chicago and Cleveland is like Cleveland only has a couple sports teams, right? So you can go You got Indians, Cavaliers. What else do you have, Mike? Browns. I mean,
the Browns are number one, aren't they? I was to learn this at the Browns.
I guess they have 3 of the top 4. But and then also Chicago has a lot more people,
right?
So you know, it's like, but you're right. I mean, there's not like dyed in the wool Nuggets fans like there are.
It's also not fair because I'm comparing it, like I came of age with LeBron and those Cavs teams, like and that was an insane time to grow up around basketball and to be eyes wide open. Like it was so much fun. This dude like grabbed a hold of the Browns' top spot in the hierarchy and ripped the Browns down, and that's hard to do. Cleveland is a football town.
Elway did it several times.
What did you say?
Elway did. Elway had no problem doing that several times.
Ouch. Yeah. Noted. No, and so I came of age with LeBron and those Cavs teams, and then in Chicago, I was around when Derrick Rose was on the ascent, and when he won his MVP in 2011. So like, it was. I've seen 2 teams and 2 franchises when there's been a ton of excitement around it. Fred Hoiberg notwithstanding, but just sort of, I've seen there be a lot of excitement and a lot of deep playoff runs. And man, it was so much fun. Those Cavs and Bulls playoff series when they were going back. I think they just replayed some of the game winners on ESPN, and it was just like that's what I'm used to being around. So I'm not going to say I had any expectation that the Nuggets were going to make Western Conference Finals runs, but I thought that the potential was there, and so. Maybe it just takes a string of consistent winners, of sustained building, and so people can really hang their hat on this team and really get excited about him. And it's so cool that Jokic is a unique superstar that, I feel like Nuggets fans love the idea that he's like a quote unquote weird superstar or like one of those unicorn superstars.
Oh yeah.
So one of the things is, Mike, that there's the gaps between good eras has been long enough to lose people. Like if you're bad for 2 years, you can overcome that. If you're bad for 10, like the Nuggets were from 94 to 2004, that's really tough. You get a whole group of people that just completely tune them out and never come back. And this kind of brings me to your article last week talking to Alex English, which is you get players that have played here and you get guys that were fans of that Nuggets team, but they just don't seem to be the same people that are the fans of the Melo era, and the same fans are the fans of the Jokic era. It's almost like that's three different circles of people in Colorado. I mean, that's more or less the impression you got speaking to Alex English, is it not?
Yeah, that was eye-opening to me, and I'll give you credit because you actually asked the question that sort of, piqued my interest in that 2 years ago. But when Alex is saying things like, it's like if you rewrote Microsoft and Apple's history without Bill Gates or Steve Jobs, and then he says the thing about, or Dave Thomas at Wendy's.
Can we stop there real quick? Hold on. Here's the thing. So I'm 36. I know you guys are older than me. The rest of you guys are children. No, but Dave Thomas is not part of, like, you don't think of Dave Thomas. Eric, don't you?
Because American Geniuses.
Yes, I'm telling you, in high school, I watched a documentary on Dave Thomas. That's like because he was like
well, I don't know, in a world of
icon of America.
In a world of round burgers, he brought a square one. Like,
I laughed at that reference because it was such a reference for people like old people.
100%. It was like a get off my lawn and let me age myself right now. And I was like, okay, Alex, whatever you want to do. But it was damning to me, in my opinion, when he's saying that he was fighting for recognition amongst the franchise. He's a Hall of Famer, arguably their best player ever, and he's fighting for recognition, and he felt disconnected to the point where he's saying things like, it's like if you look at the Celtics and, they wrote out Larry Bird and Robert Parrish and Kevin McHale from their history. And, it's not hard to see if the Nuggets were to invest and make sure that draw a trajectory, a line from those 80s teams to now, maybe you would have a more sustained fan base, but there's been a little bit of neglect. And, credit to Lisa Johnson. I'm sure you guys all know Lisa. Like, she recognized it, reached out. She had maintained a friendship. She's in her 39th season with the Nuggets. She reached out and made sure that they felt a part of the organization, because Alex kept saying, like, it's not just, you can't look at this team in a vacuum. They are who they are because of who came before them. Yeah, and, credit to Tim Connolly and Josh Kroenke. They were the ones who spearheaded that and gave Lisa sort of the wings to go and pursue that and reach out and really connect the dots to their history. And, it's a pretty terrible look if you have your best player, creating a divide between you and the current Nuggets. Like, I mean, the coolest thing to me was when I was talking to him and I asked him about this year's Nuggets and last year's Nuggets, he started using the pronoun we. He was like, we had a really good chance. We had a really good chance this year. I like where we're at this year. And I just thought that was a fascinating thing. Like, had Lisa not reached out and made sure and taken them for the 50th anniversary, does he say we? Does he feel a part of it?
Yeah.
Something must have changed because, like, when I first started covering the team, like 2016, that stuff did not happen. It was almost like the Nuggets were, I don't know if ashamed is the right word, but just did not want to recognize their history. And like when we do compare them to these other franchises, yeah, they don't have the history of a Celtics or a Bulls or anything close to that. But you would think that they have this top 50 player in Alex English. They had some great teams back in the 80s. They would want to recognize those guys as much as they can because they don't have that history.
I think David Thompson is where they really dropped the ball because he's one of the most interesting players. If you talk about that era of like 70s basketball, that's kind of like foggy anyway. David Thompson's an icon. Like he's sort of a Michael Jordan for Michael Jordan. I feel like
he's Michael Jordan's favorite player.
Yeah, you should
like come on.
You ask, like people to name old Nuggets. I don't even know if David Thompson would be one of the names they throw out there. And I think that's a little crazy.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Like when I was in junior high, the Nuggets were so terrible that if you were to wear their gear, like you were like kind of a loser. Like people like looked down on you. And
they almost broke the record for worst. Was it 99 or 2000? They almost set the record for the fewest wins. So
97, 98, wasn't it? Hanslick, wasn't he the coach?
For fewest wins. Yeah.
You know, what's funny is I remember the like 9 News report of Hanslick cleaning out his desk. It's like Hanslick is around, and it's kind of funny that and I love Hans. You know, this is nothing against him, but it is funny that him, Dan Issel, like those are some of the through lines through it. But those aren't the type of guys that are through lines that are going to be like, oh yeah, the kids just love themselves some Dan Issel and
Come on. I mean, how cool would it be to have a statue of Mutombo wagging his finger outside the Pepsi Center?
It would be amazing.
Have you been saying that?
But Mutombo, like, that's the problem is that it's Mutombo spent most of his career away from Denver.
Yeah, and he didn't. And like there was like a building up of that era, and then he left.
Yeah, it just left.
Blame him, but
yeah,
but
totally.
There are it just
that didn't end on great terms.
But there are a lot of things you can do. You don't need to win a title, right? To build statues and to have paintings in the hallway. And like, you know, Mike, I'm sure you can agree with this. Coming into Denver, I didn't feel plugged into any of this, into the timeline of that history and the culture, you know, and everything feels so like it's just kind of sitting there. And so there are things you can do. I don't know, like, I don't think you have to win a title for me to walk into your arena and feel like, oh yeah, this is the place the Nuggets call home, you know?
I mean, so listen, I was thinking about it in regards to the Cavs. The Cavs celebrated Mark Price and Brad Daugherty and Ron Harper before they won anything. Like they were still celebrated and they brought those guys back. So like the point I wanted to make is who cares if you win a title or not? There are a bunch of franchises that didn't win titles, you know, when their best player was there. There is still tradition that is there to be celebrated. Whether you win or not, like, you know, the Thompsons, the Englishes, Issel, you know, I actually talked to, it's funny because we've had so much time and this has allowed me to really tap into some of those older teams. And I've just been calling guys left and right. I talked to LaFonso Ellis today. I talked to Dan Issel yesterday. Like, I'm trying to really understand that era because we have time to, and because I feel like it deserves its due. So, you know, I really do feel an obligation. One thing I heard, which was really cool from a guy who I respect a lot in Chicago. His name was Casey Johnson. He used to work for the Chicago Tribune. He said he felt like it was his responsibility to chronicle and to be the bearer of history. And you know, listen, I'm in my second season on the team. I'm not putting that on my shoulders, but like, I do feel like it's important, especially if that history has been neglected, to address it.
Yeah, a lot of this has to do with ownership and management more so than it does the city of Denver. Like, the thing is like, I mean, we had like it was pretty bad for a while. Like, they didn't have a great relationship with the city. They're sort of like, you see it when we talk about uniforms all the time, but you sort of see like where the Nuggets' head was when they just completely tear up things that they had that were heritage based, and they start over like, oh, we're baby blue now. We're not, and they just like change things to try and get people interested rather than talk about, they've been here for a long time, a very long time. And you're right, like you wouldn't know it necessarily, but that's a nice thing is that I have seen that personally change over the last however many years. Like, as you say, like credit to Josh Kroenke, credit to Tim Conley, like, you know, they're finally retiring numbers for like 40 years later or whatever. And it's like kind of awkward and weird, but like at least you get that.
The Tumble one was really weird because wasn't it right after Atlanta had done it?
Yeah, it's
like immediately following that. I was like, well, you know what, we're going to do that too.
Yeah.
If you've said this before, Eric, but if you put the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and current jerseys side by side and just took out the Denver part, you would have no idea that was the same team. You'd be like, this is 5 different teams.
Yeah, they basically just present. They're like just like starting over, basically.
Well, they did their market research and they found out the kids felt like losers when they would rock the threads. So.
That's right. They were on I was on a conference call with them.
But that's the point. People are running from who they are rather than just being like, you know what, our past is part of us and we're going to be better. But the one thing, and we could move on to the next thing, but the one thing about embracing the past, when I think Denver Nuggets, I think ABA. And I think weird in a good way, like good weird. And that's the part of the heritage that I feel like could really be tapped in on into is, first of all, the name is the Nuggets. It's one of the more unique names in all of sports because it's just like abstract and not a tough thing or whatever. But to me, the ABA part of it, and Doug Moe embodied this, just like, this is why I think Denver Stiffs as a name for a site was so endearing to people, is it's like leaning into the weirdness of the Denver Nuggets. It's like, this is the weird NBA team.
For sure.
That's where I would go.
No, there's a lot to be celebrated. I mean, the Doug Moe era, people have told me recently, like, Doug Moe basketball is essentially D'Antoni basketball and the Warriors basketball and small ball. And, you know, I didn't realize until I am ashamed to admit not long ago that D'Antoni coached the Nuggets. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
And Larry Brown did too.
I knew that.
Okay.
Yeah, they have a thread through UNC. There's a weird sect of Chapel Hill that loves the Nuggets. It's very odd.
Ty Lawson, I think, killed that. That was
for me, he did. Yeah.
We're never going back. All right, Harrison. Let's take another break. When we come back, though, we're gonna play some games. If you're in the chat, go ahead and hop in if you want to play the steps. Even a repeat contestant. Otherwise, Mike's gonna have to do it alone. Step back up, you losers.
We got some reads to get to, but I think it's time for our DraftKings pick of the week, guys.
Oh wow! Well, there's so much to choose from.
Yeah, so we've been tapping into the KBO, of course, and
of course, one does.
Oh no!
Oh no, Eric! You're getting called back up from the bullpen.
Oh no! Well, I don't even during the pick of the week. Oh boy, this is
There, you just go into the read, and then we'll do pick of the week with Harrison.
I don't have to read up. I don't have access to it.
I can't believe we lost right at the moment that we needed him.
All right, hang on. Let me see what I can do
Actually,
here.
you know what? Mike, why don't you go ahead and take us? What's your pick of the week in the KBO this week? Korean Baseball League.
The only team I've kind of seen are the Dinos. Are the Dinos the team?
Yes, that's our team too.
No, don't say this. This is a Dinos leaning show. I unfortunately swore my allegiance to the Samsung Lions, and
Naturally.
wow, is that a bad choice? But now I'm a long-suffering Lions fan. I think that we've won 2 games this season.
Was it Samsung? Was that the draw? You remember the old?
Well, if you'll remember, I declared my allegiance to 3 teams immediately, and then Patrick, without even breathing, pointed out that they were in different leagues that not available for.
I'm back, guys. I'm back.
Yeah. So anyway, I just moved down the list. I was like, oh yeah, Samsung. I was like, what am I going to cheer for Kia? I'll cheer for Samsung.
Kia makes an affordable, reliable car.
I agree, but that's nothing to cheer for. Samsung, baby.
Go LG Twins.
Get out of here, Allie.
All right, Harrison, are you ready? Are you ready to?
All right, let's do this. Let's do this. Yeah, let's do this. Yeah, so we got the DraftKings pick of the week. I'm going with the LG Twins. They're a 1.5 run favorite over the SK Wyverns. Do you guys know what a wyvern is?
Is it?
Who doesn't?
Let's go around and guess.
Wooden ship used in the Civil War era.
Yeah,
it's a dragon, actually. A wyvern is a dragon. So I'm going with the LG Twins, 1.5 run favorite over the SK Wyverns. That game is tonight or Thursday morning. So get on that. I think the LG Twins are going for a 3-game sweep there.
You threw me a curveball because I thought we were doing the Dinos game and the KT Wiz Suwon game. And I had actually prepared notes on that game.
Give them to us.
Well, I was leaving the Dinos for you.
Oh, sweet. Okay, then I am.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now, if you want to take gambling advice from me, and anybody that's been to a casino with me knows this is very wise to do. You should always take my gambling advice. Take the Dinos, 1.5 point favorite. 3 games in a row now. They are sneaking out on last-minute wins. They are on fire right now.
Last minute.
Also, their mascot is Swole Daddy. So
Adam, the baseball guy. No minutes in baseball.
right.
For sure.
At the buzzer.
Sure. So that's our DraftKings pick of the week for this week. I've got the LG Twins as a 1.5 run favorite. Adam's got the Dinos. So cash out with those, baby.
Fade the Lions.
On KBO games is actually super fun. It gives you something. It just makes you feel like sports aren't gone.
Yeah. Also, guys, Strava Craft Coffee you can purchase online for 20% off using the code DNVR20, powering us through our DNBA show every single night.
I get mine for free, not to flex, but gets sent to my doorstep.
Nice flex.
Yo, Strava rules. Not even an ad. If we leave the ad for a moment, it's a fantastic product. I drink.
Are you guys for real drinking coffee right now? 8:45. Y'all drinking coffee?
This is Strava Crap coffee right now.
I'm drinking coffee this. I'm going to be up for 6 more hours.
But it's CBD infused, so you get the mix of the delicious coffee flavor. It's bold and rich for those who appreciate it, and it's calming at the same point in time.
And you missed the biggest part. It helps with your IBS. That's the real lead. That's the real breadwinner there.
Yeah, that needs a lot of help with that. Yeah.
Why don't you pair it? Why don't you pair it with like a Tums or something like that? A double buy.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Just
Anything to
double
help me pass this
IBS relief.
McDonald's and refried beans.
And
Shout out-
finally,
or
finally-
Wendy's. You could always hit up Dave Thomas and Wendy's and see where it takes you.
Run
There
right
you
through
go.
me.
There you go. Finally, guys, we're covering the Colorado Raptors, of course, over on DNVR. Colton Strickler's got the DNVR Raptors podcast, and I've become like a huge rugby guy because we've been doing these DNVR watches on the weekends, watching old Raptors games. Rugby is an incredible sport. Like,
Did
you
you
guys
hear
are
me?
ridiculous athletes.
Did you hear me on the Raptors podcast, Harrison? Go check out that episode. We named
No.
the best.
I did not know.
We did the best basketball players that would be good rugby players.
Let me guess who number one was. Would it
PJ
be
Tucker is number one.
We
LeBron
had PJ
James?
Tucker.
Where did LeBron James land? on your
LeBron
list?
was in there. My first pick actually though was for sevens, and I took Russell Westbrook.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Man, you would be. Yeah, I could see that one.
Check out that pod though; it's pretty good.
Yeah, check out that
I'm very
pod.
excited about that pod now. This is a fun
Yeah,
topic. I don't want to
yeah.
steal it for the.
I'll
the
shoot you a
show.
link. I'll shoot you a link.
Instead, it. Oh wait a second.
oh no!
Oh God, what is that horrible
on.
noise?
What is
Is that online with D-Line?
is? Oh,
It's
looks like
online.
time
Oh,
to
my
get
God.
online.
This segment's back. Jeez.
Mike, this
Sort
is
of.
the part of the show where we just try to make Eric feel good, so we gave him his own three.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm
I
down.
I gotta say, also, it hasn't worked so far. You can
Like
make me feel a little bit better
33%.
about myself.
Tonight's your
Success
night.
rate.
Tonight's your night, Eric.
All right, so what's going on the internet, guys? Have you been out there poking
I like how
around?
this is Eric's intro every time. Also. It's the
You
same
guys seen
intro.
the internet?
What's
lately?
going on the internet?
You know what, Harrison? I'm going to compile all of your intro into your ad reads. You're going to find some shocking similarities between them. First and foremost, so we've been talking about old mics.
Oh, my
Previously,
God.
Jordan. Right now, Tyson. Were you guys Mike Tyson guys?
I am now.
Before my time, but yes,
I mean,
I would have been.
I think because of some of the others. Yeah, that's a weird question, I think. But
I know it's not.
I find Mike Tyson to be incredibly fascinating. I think
Jesus.
He's a Clippers fan.
I just saw the end. I'd not watched this all the way through. Watching the end of that, I just it chilled me to my core.
I
I'm
can watch-
going to play it with.
I just want to answer the question up top. Absolutely not.
Oh my god! I am. This is. I'll turn it down here.
Please turn the audio.
All right, come on.
I think that's an absolute yes. I think I'll get smoked for $400 million.
You would get smoked by Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, I find to be the most terrifying human being that's ever walked this earth.
Hands down. Hands down.
Yeah.
He's also the most interesting human being if you've ever.
He's so
I mean,
there.
I know why you've steered clear of him in the past, Brendan. I know why you maybe not spiritually aligned yourself with him, but like if you like really dive into the psyche of Mike Tyson,
Oh, yeah.
it's like he's one of the most interesting people.
No,
on
he's
earth. Anyway,
fascinating.
He's
watching
Also
this.
one of the scariest too.
Honestly,
He is.
here's a question: could the five of us take Mike Tyson?
Is this
The
one of
five
these?
of us, he just wants to fight us all. Who are you taking?
Is this one of these questions where it's
Oh,
like,
man.
no, I'm going Tyson, absolutely.
I think we could do it, but in terms of the most terrifying person on the planet, I'm still probably going with Strahinja Jokic
Oh,
for my
You
money.
might be able to take Mike Tyson.
Along with us, if we had Strahinja on our side.
have you
Yeah.
ever watched these old Mike Tyson bouts?
Yeah,
Of course.
it's messed up. It's like deeply
It's-
like things
yeah.
that big shouldn't move that fast.
Well, it's
They're
like-
the toughest, biggest, baddest dudes on earth, and he's just like making them terrified.
Yeah, it's like violent to a level that you didn't realize human beings were able to go. It's terrifying. Anyway, Mike Tyson still in the news. Appreciate that. So, what else is going on online these
Right.
days, guys? So this has been referenced a couple times. So, this is a Dr. Glaucomflecklin says,
That doesn't sound like a real doctor.
Yeah, not a real doctor.
like 1,000 people have asked me about Jordan's eyes. He's not jaundiced. He has racial melanosis of the conjunctiva, benign flat patches of pigment around the edge of the cornea. Extremely common in darkly pigmented individuals, more prominent with age. Hashtag the last dance.
No idea.
Yeah,
I
I
thought
say-
I was drinking too much.
Can I say I had multiple people who were not basketball fans reach out to me and ask me why his eyes were so red. And I finally saw another answer. Our doctor here might be right, but I heard from the director that it was because he's always smoking his cigar and that smoke.
That's what we assumed. But then maybe your
We're all
eyes are not.
doctors here.
Yeah, maybe
dude,
your eyes
but-
are not subject to the same rules as a ceiling in a cheap motel. Where
We don't really fact check though on Online with D-Line. I just want to. We have a
Police
Cool.
show.
No. We actually
Dr. Glaucoma chicken.
we actually
questionable source.
Yeah, we actually fact reject here on Online with D-Line.
I like that this guy is just this Twitter handle is Doctor whatever, and we're all like, oh, it's a doctor.
Yeah, that's all I needed. I didn't. Did you do a deep dive on Dr. Travis Heath? What I don't know. Who do we know?
That's true. I guess we never asked him.
So what else is going online these days?
That one was not
Dude, shut up, man.
I hate
So-
this segment.
It's the worst. So
This was
Bleacher Report on crack. So here was a trade proposed by Bleacher Report that the Nuggets may or may not want to get in on. Mike, love to hear your insight on this. So the Nuggets would receive the object of all of our devotion and all of our affection, Kevin Love,
Good start.
power forward Kevin Love, guard Colin Sexton, whose hair I've already rejected. I'm out on this trade already, and forward Nasir Little. We give up Will Barton,
Okay.
Michael Porter Jr.,
What?
Gary Harris. But we do finally get our one true love, Kevin Love. What do you guys think of this?
It's ridiculous.
So this
there's
is
no
something that
merit.
happens probably twice a year where people try to trade Kevin Love to Denver. It's like got to happen 2 or 3 times a year.
I
I've got
Googled it. Bleacher Report has published an article on Love to Denver every year since 2015.
I've got a follow-up tweet here from Harrison Wind, who during the 20 for 20, his 20 predictions that we launched at the beginning of the year, Harrison, like Nostradamus before him, said, prediction number 4, the national media tries to trade Kevin Love to Denver again.
This was like
So
one of
good.
the first predictions I thought of because it's just a stone cold lock
Yeah, it's not really
every
right.
single year.
I wish that could be our DK
Man.
segment because
Like, how old is Kevin Love now? Or is he like 31, 32-ish? And
good question.
How old is he?
I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah,
look it up.
We're fact checking online with D-Line. I like it.
That's how we reject facts here. He's
We do.
31 or 32.
Okay. Let's just,
31.
I just want to leave this up. This is one of my more one of the graphics I
He's
enjoyed
on the
making.
down. He's on the downside. Who? In what world is he coveted? Is he a guy who makes you better? Is he a good defender? Like I have no love for Kevin Love.
No, but I mean, you definitely give up Michael Porter Jr. for him. I mean, that's no question.
Who wouldn't?
I just want to send like white skilled players to Denver.
Mhm.
Jokic. I really think that's it.
That's it. He's a shooter. He's white.
Yeah, he's kind of like Jokic.
Yeah. Once upon a time, the Nuggets almost did trade for Kevin
They
Love.
did actually trade for Kevin Love, and then Kevin Pritchard changed his mind.
So just forever trying to recreate
Is there
that
anything
trade.
else online there, Eric?
Yeah, there is, but I'm getting a lot of static from this.
All right.
That was online with D-Line.
Getting
Oh,
better,
thank
Eric.
God.
Getting better.
Thank God.
Let's bring in Marcus now, and let's put him through the ringer.
Oh,
Marcus,
baby.
I think waiting backside. Marcus, what's happening? You're
Marcus is muted.
You're self muted, I believe.
There's a button
Oh,
at the
boy.
bottom.
Do we tell him to disable the box?
Marcus, what's up, brother?
Can you hear me?
What's up, Marcus?
How are you guys? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Ooh.
Hey,
Marcus.
Australia.
Doing well,
You sound
doing
like you're
well.
from Denver.
Ooh, not quite, not quite.
Where are you calling us from today, Marcus?
I'm part of the Melbourne Denver Stiffs community.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love that there's a whole community of Melbourne. Did I say that right? Melbourne?
No, you did not.
Yeah, we don't really finesse our pronunciations that much. So yeah, Melbourne would be how we say it. But like a lot of Americans go with the Melbourne.
right. Yeah, that was good.
Oh,
I'm
my
a
God.
Melbourner.
That was amazing.
That was good.
Can you do a full American accent?
Yep, your homies are hopping in here. Were you at the watch party last season?
I was at the watch party. Yeah,
Very cool.
Hell yeah.
It was rocking.
that was such a cool day. Like
What?
I remember, like not many of my mates are Nuggets fans.
Sure.
Right.
So
I can
I was-
imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
relate.
So I was heading in
Hey,
there
bro.
like on my own, and then I got into the city because it was just at like some sports bar in the city. And I got in there, and there was like I saw like a couple of Gallo jerseys, like the yellow that they had a few years ago. It was like Gallo and Kenneth Fareed.
Oh yeah.
And then I walked in.
Oh yeah.
I found the place, and everyone was like super friendly, having a good time. And then I think the loudest point was when Swaggy Peace hit like 2 or 3 threes. Like late in the first half.
Glorious moment.
You know what? I
That
can't believe
might have also been the loudest point at Pepsi Center all of last year.
I was going to say, I can't believe I forgot that we had a statue-worthy moment for
That was
outside of
incredible.
Pepsi.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. And then I actually traveled to.
There was an Australian Nuggets watch party with Swaggy P being the key moment. What a weird collection of
Mad Libs.
details.
Pretty great. Yeah, and then I traveled to Denver in November, so I saw a couple of Nuggets games live.
Oh,
Nice.
nice.
Oh, cool, man.
Did we win?
Oh, yeah.
I said we.
Yeah. So I saw the Washington game like just before Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
It was a blowout. And then I was in Dallas for the Jokic game winner.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
That was
Solid.
honestly one of the best games of the year. It had a playoff feel to it that
No
night.
doubt.
That was awesome.
It was such a good game because it was pretty close the whole way through. There were no like blowout leads, and yeah, it was just really good experience.
I like those Dallas games. Those Dallas
Jeremy
games.
Grant blocked Luka twice on one play in that game. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, he did.
What was your impression of Pepsi Center and just NBA atmosphere in general?
Well, Pepsi Center was a bit frustrating. The security, because obviously it's a new experience for me, and my friend and I were trying to get down to the lower levels just to like take a few photos and stuff. And
So you're a criminal.
the security didn't really like that. We had to go to like 3 or 4 different aisles before someone eventually let us down for like 2 minutes just to take some photos. But that day was actually there was a huge snowstorm that day, so there wasn't a huge crowd there, and obviously Washington's not a huge drawing.
I hope Marcus wins a sticker pack and it costs us like $30 to send.
Yeah, dude. It's almost better if you just bring a subscription.
What's the heaviest prize he can win? I want him to win the heaviest prize.
The DNVR 15 questions. Nobody's gotten close. Actually, one.
That's not true. We
No,
got
someone got top 13.
right on the doorstep.
Yeah.
All right. Without further ado, let's do it. Allie.
My favorite part of the night.
You can just go on autopilot.
Question number 1. Actually, these are Brendan's questions.
Oh, baby.
Oh
Who
boy.
did the Denver Nuggets lose to in the infamous Game 82?
Minnesota Timberwolves.
That is correct. That's even a repeat question, and you got it
You
right.
thought you could trip up Marcus on question 1? Please.
Yeah.
No, I was trying not to trip up Marcus.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
Appreciate that, Brendan.
Yeah,
What?
I got you.
3 players did the Denver Nuggets send to the Minnesota Timberwolves at this year's trade deadline?
Wancho, Malik, and Jared Vanderbilt.
Killed it.
No hesitation. Absolutely right. Number 3. Which Denver Nuggets player attended Iowa State for 4 years? Oh, this is a tough one because it's like universities, which like Australia's like I don't get.
I think you said it. You get
You
it?
got it.
Yeah, Monte.
Hey, you got
There
it.
you go.
Well done. Number 4.
Unbelievable.
Oh, this
Wow,
is,
these are good questions.
I feel a little phoned in, if I'm being honest.
which current Denver Nuggets player has a FIBA World Cup gold medal?
Ooh, current player.
This is tough.
This is tough.
Ooh.
You thought you were just gonna cruise through the steps, Mark?
We're not
Yeah.
gonna
Good.
we're not gonna mail a package.
We're just gonna walk down to
Help me
the
out here.
courtside to our game
You
here.
can go through the list.
So let's think
Mike,
about
what do
this.
you got?
So Wancho was on Spain this past year when they won, but that doesn't count anymore.
No. I have a feeling it's going to be it's either is it Mason or Paul Millsap? One of those two.
Ooh, that's a good point because I think it's. Is it Mace? Are we screwing this up big time?
Well, Mason was on the team last year.
Right,
obviously.
and I know that he had. Oh, you know what? Crap! It might be. It's either. I think you're dead on. I think it's either Millsap or Mace. Guys, blink once or twice.
The trick is to ask Adam if it's a trick question.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, it's just a trick question.
spiral into self doubt.
I mean,
Are we on the right path?
You're naming basketball players. That's
You
hard to
are.
deny.
I'm
Those
gonna
are
lock in
Nuggets
Millsap.
for sure.
What'd you say?
I'm gonna lock in Millsap.
Oh, we were so close.
It was Mace, right?
It was Mason Plumlee.
He
The
had the
MVP
answer.
team.
Why couldn't we blink? We should have blinked. I feel
Wait,
terrible.
maybe-
I felt
was a
terrible
national
too. I was
title,
really
too.
rooting for Marcus. I really wanted
Me
Marcus
too.
to get that.
Me too.
I wanted him to go all the way, and that was
Hey, Marcus, next time you come to Denver, if you ever want to rent a 1-bedroom apartment and live with somebody, you hit me up.
Do not hit him up.
I feel like he should easily be able to get down to the court. If he flew across continents, he should be able to get down next time.
You
Come
guys,
to
He's got to hit up He's got to hit us up, man.
Oh, yeah.
We know people are coming from out of the country. You know, we hook them up with some kind of tour or something. So
we're tight
now
with
you
the
know for next
security, so it's like pretty easy for us to get you around.
I make up a fake badge. No, just kidding. Mike, thanks so much for hanging out with us, dude, for this hour. This was a lot of fun. It was good to see you again.
You too. Next time I'll grow the beard Tom Hanks length.
Please.
Just for you.
Yeah, next quarantine, Mike.
You have a certain Tom Hanksness to you.
You do.
All right. I'll take it. Yo, he had COVID, so all right, cool.
Looking for those antibodies.
All right,
Anything
get
for
rid
the
of Mike. Kick
antibodies.
him out of the stream.
Kick me out.
Everybody else, thanks so much for tuning in. Tomorrow, Andy Bailey is stopping by from Bleacher Report. He's going to talk about Nikola Jokic.
Probably some rankings, maybe.
Maybe the only guy higher on Nikola
Bunch of
Jokic than
stats.
I am. So we'll see how that goes. Everybody else, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.